Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Brand Innovators. I don't know if Mark or Brandon are here. Hi, thank you. This has been a wonderful day and a half. And now, this morning, we're going to talk about the UMG Coca-Cola company partnership, very unique, and the latest thing it has spawned, which is Real Thing Records. So, Josh
Yes.
and Allais,
Yes.
let's start by each of you sharing the inspiration behind Real Thing Records and the role you each played in bringing it to life.
Thank you, Michele. Great question. Thank you, everyone, for having us. We're incredibly excited to talk about this today. This actually marks a pretty significant milestone in the relationship that we as the Coca-Cola company have with the amazing Universal Music Group. And we were just talking about this. You know, this was a conversation, as Rich said, that was initially born here. The first time that we spoke about this publicly was actually Michele and I in New York about a year and a half ago at this point. And then Allais, Grace, and I have been working on it for the last year, basically nonstop. So it's an extraordinarily exciting partnership that we have, where the two companies, Universal and Coca-Cola, have the trust and the relationship and the experience where we can embark on this incredibly unique journey together at a time where we feel it's the most appropriate and special for not only artists but also fans and our consumers. And we've been building this out in a capacity which is extremely true to the partnership as 50-50 partners, obviously the amazing expertise that Universal Music Group has in developing artists and music, but then also Coca-Cola company reach and scale on the media presence that we bring as well. So it's really a 1 + 1 = 5 or 50 equation. Definitely not 3, more 50 I think is probably more accurate. And then in our roles, so I'll let Allais speak. So my role at Coke is to lead Real Thing Records, which has been a dream of mine since I was a child, and it's incredible to be able to say this publicly. Allais.
Thanks. Thank you, Michele.
Hi, Allais.
Hi, Michele. And I echo that. Thank you for having us here today. I'll just expand on what Josh said to note that we have been working on this for a couple of years, so it's really exciting to be out in the world talking about it with all of you. I think that this built upon a very solid foundation of our partnership and our two companies working together over the years on many public-facing amazing programs, Coke Studio, Sprite Limelight, that our artists have participated in for years now, that UMG for Brands has powered and worked on with the Coca-Cola company and our incredible labels and artists. And this just felt like a natural evolution, I think, and next step.
So, as you were alluding to, Allais, we've had a really successful relationship with Coca-Cola Company on many levels, globally, locally, etc. So why a record company now? What does this say about the evolution of both companies that were forming a record company together?
Great question. So the question is, why a record label? Why now? We all, and many people here in the audience who we hold very dear, have worked on music and brands, or the convergence of music and brands, for a long time. And I can say with all sincerity that the people in this room, a lot of the people in this room, have been at the forefront of what has really moved the needle in terms of what a brand in music can be. When I started working in music and brands, it was very simple. I mean, it was never simple, but it was much more one-dimensional. You either licensed a song for an ad, you had an artist hold a product and endorse it, or you slapped a logo on a festival, and that was music marketing. Now, things have evolved tremendously. Even probably while we're sitting here in this room, things have changed. But it's fundamentally important that we are always pushing the needle forward and having a more direct and valuable relationship with fandom and fans. Real Thing Records allows us not only to be a sponsor to culture, but also to participate in it in a meaningful way that allows us to add value not only to artists, but also to music fans, and to grow our brand. So the evolution, it was necessary, and I'm incredibly proud of all the people that have put a lot of energy into making this a success.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about in terms of fandom is part of the key to the evolution. I mean, certainly we see it in our business. You know, we used to talk about reach over value, meaning like, you know, get your message out to as many people as possible. And now it's really about the value of who is carrying the message, and that's the super fan, right? And I think that for both of our businesses, and certainly for our artists create that special super fandom relationship. So I think I agree with you. That's why the time is right now. Let's see. So I was going to ask you next, how does this differ from your past music marketing? But I think you've answered that pretty much, unless there's anything else you want to say.
No, I mean, I think all of us, again, are used to working on multifaceted marketing campaigns. I mean, we're literally at a festival right now for creative excellence, and people are winning awards for their, innovation and creativity. I think that we have always strived for the same in all of our campaigns. I think what's markedly different about Real Thing Records is that it's not a campaign. And I know that to a lot of people, who look at this from the outside, it's not the first time that a brand has tried to create a label. But in most of those cases, either they did it on their own or it was more of a marketing gimmick or a stunt versus something that was a true investment into the actual culture and into fandom. And I'm sitting here on stage right now like a cartoon character wearing the merch of this thing, not because I think it's awesome, and by the way, you guys should all get some, but also because I'm representing the Coca-Cola company as a firm believer that this is an important next step in the way that we connect with fans and our consumers. And it's a long-term investment in not only our brands, but also in artists and music.
Yeah, and I think, Allais, now would be a good time to talk about how this is going to work, because this is what's different about a brand just starting a label. It's the intricate local and global collaboration. So, Allais, you helped architect that. Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about
Absolutely. That? So I think it's so important to understand that this is not a vanity project. This is not a vanity label. This is a real thing. And that was important to us at every step of the way. I think that's really been our North Star as we were working to build it. Anytime it felt overdone or too forced, we kept coming back to that. This was about a long-term investment in artistry. And I think that's something that's been critical to UMG always. And investing in culture is, critical to the Coca-Cola company. So it was a natural fit and evolution, like we've said. And we've been able to truly partner with our labels to allow them to bring what they do best day to day, and nobody does it better. I think I'm right to say that. A little bit.
And I like the slogan.
Subjective, but yeah. But I think that UMG is obviously, it's a powerhouse. It's home to the biggest and the best labels in the world, and partnering with each of our frontline labels to sign these artists meaningfully and to support them throughout the life cycle of their career and develop that and accelerate that and amplify what they're doing was really important to us.
Yeah, and again, I think it's important to stress that we're doing this territory by territory too. So I guess that kind of leads me to the next question, which is, how are you going to decide which artists to assign? And what might success look like for you?
Yeah, so great question. It's an incredibly serious thing in trying to determine, especially when we're launching something new with a lot of eyes on it, a global launch, the pressure of two massive companies, to think through really, how are we going to approach signing artists, finding artists, identifying artists. One of the things that I feel makes RTR Real Thing Records special is the fact that we operate as an imprint under UMG, but also it's international. It's an international imprint, which I've discovered is not an easy thing. So anyone who's trying to do that, come talk to us and we can tell you about it. But what that means is, we're not only identifying artists in one genre, we're not identifying artists in one country. We're utilizing both of our networks to discover artists all over the world. And, for us, it's very important that these artists are the real thing, pun very intended. The artists can be any kind of genre, but they all have a heart, they all have a connection to their fandom. They all have a point of view, amazing artistry, amazing creativity. And so, the networks working together has really allowed us to supercharge the way that we are able to identify and secure artists. And so the big surprise for all of you right now, and something that I'm extremely excited and proud to be able to introduce our first Real Thing Records signing by way of New Zealand and Nice, Mr. Max Allais. Please welcome Max.
Welcome, Max. So let's talk about Max for a second, because Max was brought up in New Zealand, lives here in Nice, but the local partner on this is our German company. So again, this is because we are doing this strategically and authentically. So it's the right fit. Whatever territory, along with RTR, is the right fit to start the spark, to start the super fandom. That's where we're going. So Max, why did you choose RTR? And what does success look like for you?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you to Josh and to Allais. I chose RTR because it was a new thing, and I really wanted to see how exciting. Well, I think it's very exciting to be a part of a new thing like RTR. And I had a meeting with Josh in Allais, and it was a great meeting, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm a big people person, and I really thought Josh and Allais were great people, and so yeah, that's kind of why I chose it. And for the success question, for me, it's a lot about being able to tour the world and connect with my fans in the best way possible, and making music that I love is kind of it. Yeah.
So in today's landscape, for an artist, it's not just about music, right? It's fashion, it's gaming, it's digital, it's live, it's the whole thing. So how will RTR help an artist like Max in these areas?
So we all come from brand marketing backgrounds, and I'm sure everyone in this room is familiar with the concept of a flywheel. Yeah, everyone? Okay, great. So
I know Steve knows.
Yes. So flywheel is effectively the way that we discuss how a project, an asset, a label, an artist, all the different touch points that will allow that individual, that project, that, whatever it is, if it's even a campaign, land in the world. So the flywheel for a campaign could be, this is what we're doing in social, this is what we're doing out of home, this is what we're doing in digital, this is what the design looks like, this is what the customer looks like, this is the music strategy. And so we're taking that same operating system, that the hardware is the flywheel. In this case, sorry, this is like the least sexy way to put this in front of our first artist. The software
close your ears.
But the reality is that I think collectively we're looking at how do we take the brilliant music and the brilliant and person that Max is, and how do we build a flywheel around that, so that whether it's sports, or whether it's the World Cup, or whether it's festivals, how do we leverage all the collective resources and partnerships that we have really to connect Max not only in the regions where he's already big, but more importantly the regions where he needs to grow. And so we're really looking at this as it's a new way of thinking, I believe, in terms of how artists are developed, but we're looking forward. And here's the thing, guys. This is brand new. Today is the first time we're talking about this. So we're all going to build this together. And we're going to put everything we have 110% behind this guy right here.
I think that's exactly right. And, I think one of the things that is so amazing about our companies is our shared recognition that creativity is prismatic. So it really, all of the artists that we're looking at and signing, and Max stood out to us immediately in that regard, really are so multidimensional. And I think they would excel in any creative field. Music happens to be the outlet. But they will find success everywhere, and we're really excited to support them all along that journey. And I think it does all tie back together. That really creates an authentic message for your fans and allows you to connect with them more meaningfully, and create those legions of super fans around the world. So,
which Max already has a legion of super fans.
He does.
We're trying.
That we're going to help grow. Look, I think in kind of tying this all together, what we've seen in general in the evolution of brands is, brands 1.0 is kind of the meat and potatoes of brands, right? It's sponsorship, it's transactional, it's this artist needs a campaign because there's an album coming out, and we'll do that all day long, and we do that all day long with you. But then largely, initially coming out of our partnership, came Brands 2.0, where suddenly we're building brand equity, whether it was Coke Studio, which is something that you had, but we helped create more equity with, for example, we talked about Carol G, or in India, where you won the Silver Lions for the work we did there. And suddenly Coke Studio was a thing. We helped build that brand equity, and it was great for the artists too, because it was a unique platform. And now I think what we're seeing is Brands 3.0, which is this sort of enterprise relationship, And so with all of this evolution and shift, we're seeing how brands are now investing in culture, actually. So you're not just sponsoring it, but you're helping to create it. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So this is I believe, one of the last questions. So we're going to really land this plane right now with the answer.
Yeah.
We're not playing around here, guys. This is something that we are taking a really big swing. It's taken a lot of time, a lot of hard work to pull this together. You can imagine, for those of you who work in brands, whether it's from an agency's perspective or from a brand, or all the different people that put programs together to allow us to be in this beautiful place together. It's really hard work. And, I was saying this earlier, that when we were a little bit younger, we were really into our ideas. When someone took your idea, you were upset. But really, 99% of it isn't the idea, it's the execution of that idea. So for us, the Universal Music Group is the Coca-Cola of record labels, and Coca-Cola is the Universal Music Group of beverage companies. I got that. Okay, I got that right. And for us, innovation and moving the needle forward is the most important thing, and it's the responsibility of the people. We have the privilege of working at these companies. We have the privilege of working with artists like Max, and this isn't going to last forever. So while we're here, and this is something that I implore everyone in the audience to also take to heart, we need to take big swings. We need to move the needle. I'm telling you right now, based on doing this for a long time, that taking big swing and potentially failing is much better and more impactful, even for bosses and leaders, than not taking to the big swing. So I think Real Thing Records is a very serious but also super fun initiative that we're very excited to bring to life. And it's markedly, again, I feel, something that is really striving to move the needle forward, and not only with our companies, but in the industry at large.
We're excited too. Allais, any last thoughts on this?
I think cultural relevance can't be forced or manufactured. You really need to bring that about in, authentic engagement. And I think artists really understand how to do that with their fans and are doing that with their fans. So leaning into that and just helping amplify and enhance everything that Max is doing and wants to do to bring him closer to his fans, to grow new fans, to identify consumers of Coca-Cola that turn into fans. That's really important for us to do in all the right ways, and things that were a natural evolution of what you are doing that is actually really meaningful. So something as simple as adding, a track to a social post on a Coca-Cola company global channel can really make a difference in getting an artist's music out to the world and creating an opportunity for new fans to discover Max for the first time. So,
Well, also, we have done, I think it's 42 global campaigns with the Coca-Cola Company, and they have spotlighted artists from around the world. I mean, artists that most people might not even know their names yet, but whether it's Africa or India or Asia, etc. And so now to be able to include an artist like Max in the campaigns is great. So Max, do you have any final words you'd like to say?
I'd just like to say I'm super excited to be working with Josh, Allais, and also Tim. Tim, who's a big music guy who I've also met on Zoom. And yeah, I'm excited for things to come. And yeah.
That's Max Allais, Mallallais
That's right.
on Spotify, on
And TikTok.
Instagram, and TikTok. Yes.
Okay, we've got just a few minutes. If anybody has any questions.
Hi, I'm Allais from Genius, the music company. So love this project, want to chat more, absolutely. But curious how you're amplifying Max's music with partners outside of just Universal, through content, through social, etc.
I promise I didn't plant this question. Super nice to meet you. Universal and Coca-Cola have an extraordinary roster of partners that we work with every single day. At Coke, we built something in the last couple of years that we refer to as the global music ecosystem. I've told this joke a million times, but in our brand, if it's not an acronym, no one takes it seriously. So I call it the GME, and now it's a real thing that everyone cares about. So the GME, the global music ecosystem, is effectively a roster of partnerships spanning from Universal, our key partner, to Billboard, to Spotify, to the Recording Academy, to all these people. And so everyone's all hands on deck for this project. I mean, everyone's excited about Max. And so, that also extends into our local market. So our local, on both cases, we have partnerships with sports teams, music festivals, cinemas, all these different places that we can activate around for mutual benefit from the artist, from the brand, from Universal, and everything.
We should also mention that there's a second artist.
There is, yeah.
Do you want to mention that too?
Yes, the second artist is a brilliant young man from South India named Akso Maniac, Aksomaniac, and it's a co-signing between Real Thing Records and Def Jam India. So that's going to be really announced in the next couple of weeks. But yes, number 2. And we're going to try to get at least 5 at the end of the year. Not too many because we want to... That's too many. We max number 1.
That's right.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. I think we're all good. Okay, thank you.